Money Management Method 2 in Portfolio for Multi-Charts. On the previous video, we discussed Money Management Method 1. On this video, we're going to discuss Money Management Method 2. So, as we discussed in the previous video, just to summarize, the strategies in the portfolio are on money management. Just to show you that you can customize money management configurations in a strategy level and then add another level of money management in the portfolio level. In this particular case, for simplicity, we put the criteria 1 switch to true, number of losses 2. So each strategy here waited for 2 simulated losses before a real trade was put in the portfolio. And this was the same for all 3 strategies, though each strategy can be configured differently. But for simplistic reasons, we did all the same. So anyway, after doing that, having no money management in the portfolio, this is the result we got, 14,932. Here's our equity graph. Not really great, pretty sideways, choppy, and then started to work at one point. Now, we want to improve this result so we can add another level of money management on the portfolio. So in multi-charts, let's go to the portfolio program, open the formatting, and you will see portfolio money management is set to 0. We need to set that to 1, as we discussed in the previous videos, that this needs to be set to 1 for anything below it to work in portfolio. And money management method 2 will be discussed in this video. Money Management 2, basically the logic behind that is it's 1 up, 1 back. That is the basis of a Larry Williams slow grind, only this just has a little more flexibility than the slow grind. Essentially, when you have a loss, it increases position size. When it has a gain, it decreases position size. That's essentially it. You have a variable here. Position size method 1 is a percentage that it will increase and decrease. Position size method 2 will increase and decrease by the number of contracts or shares. For this demonstration, I set it to 1. It will increase and decrease by 50% on the first trade, 50% on the second, 50% on the third, and on it goes. Once that is configured, we want to go ahead and see how that plays out and affects the overall results. So we're going to back test this. And again, remember, each strategy here waits for 2 losses before it's put into the portfolio. Once in the portfolio and there is a loss, regardless of the strategy, it will increase position size and continue to do that until there is a win. Then it will decrease position size by 50% until it gets back to base position. Okay, and here are the results. Our equity graph clearly shows an improvement. Before, without it, it was choppy and hit a new low back here. Really didn't make any money over these years. Here we have an ascending equity curve. Much better results. We turned $14,000 into $30,000 in profits. So, an improvement. Let's go to trade by trade to fully demonstrate exactly how this works. As you can see, we have multiple different strategies, 3 different strategies, but in this particular portfolio, but you could have hundreds, if not thousands, of strategies. So, as we go along, our base position is 144. Okay, we had a loss, so it increased by 50%. Had a gain, it decreased by 50%. Back to our base. I did this multiple times. Let's find an example. Okay, we had a loss at our base, increased by 50, had another loss, increased, had another loss, increased, and etc. Finally, it increased to 729 shares, and we had a profit. Now notice over here, during these losses and increases in position size, it did not matter in the portfolio which strategy it was. Whatever strategy came up in the portfolio, it would then increase position size on a loss and vice versa. This particular case, we did have a gain finally, and then it reduced by 50%. Had a loss, then increased by 50%. Had a gain, decreased by 50%. You get the idea. And on it goes until it gets back to base position, which it did. So it's the basis of this was a Larry Williams, one up, one back in his teachings, which is essentially a slow grind. But this is a twist on that, giving us more flexibility on different things we can do. Now, and as Larry Williams had stated in his writings, that sometimes this can increase and decrease, and depending on how successful the trading strategy is performing, you don't want it to continue to increase position size over a period of time where you get it's unattainable to trade it. So to alleviate that possible scenario, we've attached another input. That input is called Money Management Method 2 Stop on Profit. What this set to true does is it says, look, once the beginning equity and the ending equity are at a profit during the money management trade series, meaning after losses, it increases position size, and then again it decreases position size. Once the equity on the portfolio gets above the beginning equity when it started increasing position size, gets to show a gain, it shows a profit. We're going to then reset back to our base position. This is a little more conservative approach, and it's very valuable depending on the kind of strategy you're trading. So let's see this and how this plays out. Let's do a back test. And just referencing the videos on the strategy levels, this is working exactly the same as we discussed in prior videos on the strategy level. But this works on a portfolio level. Same thing, but just on a portfolio level. As this is finishing up, I think you'll see that this had a interesting improvement, 26,000. Didn't make quite as much as the stop on profit fault, which was 30,000. But this is a little more conservative approach, and in some cases it will be needed so the trading strategy just doesn't go on forever. So you'll see the equity curve here. Looks virtually the same, but it's real beneficial at certain times, and it will be needed. To get a further demonstration of really how this is working, let's go down. Let's get here. Your base loss, you see it's creasing just like the other version. You get a profit, it decreases. Then you get a loss, it increased. Then you got a profit, it decreased. Now you'll notice here it increased again when you got a loss. This is what it should be doing. Got a gain, it decreased. But notice the next trade here. You got a gain again, and it decreased back to base position. Normally, it would decrease 50% to 486 shares, which would be 324. It didn't do that because the equity showed a profit from when it started. You know, it started way back here. You know, actually it was $5.76, or the prior was $9.86. If you go down, when it went back to base, your equity was $1,089. Obviously, it was an increase in equity from the beginning base position when the leveraging started. And the computer recognized that and sent it right back to base position. So it just doesn't keep increasing and decreasing and go on and on and on. So it's a much needed input given a particular strategy and portfolio configuration.